Do we need to describe bro hands?
Let's do it, Caley. We'll do it. Oh,
Okay.
hey, Caley. What's up? Nice to see you. 3, 2, 1.
Uh.
Oh, we did the wrong hand. We're the wrong way around. Anyway.
Bro hands are back. Welcome back to the Spin Cycle Podcast, everybody. I'm Caley Fretz. Today on the show, Ineos is fun again. America is back. The big boys are climbing, and we made a map. Let's get to it. Welcome to the show, Kit Nicholson.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm not as comfortable as Jonny right now.
He looks super comfortable. Welcome, Johnny Long.
I'm relaxing. Happy Monday, everyone.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Tuesday.
We got a lot.
Is it Monday or is it
up
Tuesday?
on,
No, it goes up on Monday.
This one goes up Monday.
Yeah, you can, never mind.
Yeah.
You get that.
We got a lot to talk about because Paris-Nice and Tirreno wrapped up over the weekend. America is back. That was proven at Paris-Nice over the weekend. Transfer watch, Juan Ayuso, Patrick Lefevere's banned list. We got a whole bunch to get to today, but let's kick off with something that there was some discussion of this in our sort of internal Slack as well as on the member Discord. Ineos. So first of all, at Paris-Nice, Magnus Sheffield, young American rider, 22 years old, rider for Ineos, won the final stage. Did so in a manner in which I don't know. It was an aggressive, very fun way of winning a bike race, right? Kind of rode through a whole bunch of other groups, ended up taking on Mess Peterson at the end, knew he would drop him, ended up about, 30 seconds in front of Matteo Jorgensen for a nice American 1-2. But the whole week was kind of full of Ineos doing things like this. And we've spoken mostly about this team in kind of negative terms in the last 6 to 8 months. I just think it's worth highlighting the fact that somebody or something has shifted over there, and they appear to be having fun on their bicycles again.
I mean, for years we've had Ineos saying that they were sort of recruiting the young guys. It was going to take a while to build, the next generation, as it were. I remember when Magnus Sheffield was transferring over, and the deal was kind of being prepared or the announcement was being prepared at the Belgian Worlds. And it was all this excitement. Maybe it's just because I was surrounded by American journalists, so they were very excited about Magnus Sheffield. But this maybe is the first signs that these young guys are coming of age. Maybe have had some luck on their side finally. Magnus Sheffield has been, desperate and unlucky and gone through a lot of things, over the past couple of years. So maybe we're finally seeing the fruit bearing from that. Other people have suggested, not me, other people, have suggested that maybe with Tom Pidcock out the way, that has sort of freed up the Ineos Grenadiers to refocus, to get any distractions out the way. I wouldn't say that. I think Tom Pidcock has proved himself over the past few weeks as being unshackled by the Ineos machine. But it's great to see. We've seen Ben Turner finally also getting some luck in terms of like not crashing or being able to race. It's fun. It's looking fun over there compared to a lot of other teams who have not been doing a lot of fun things. Ineos being fun, has had a couple of false dawns from Dylan van Baarle at Paris-Roubaix and various other things, but maybe 2025 is the year of Ineos.
I like that it might also be the year of Philippe Ganna after last year. Well, I mean, I put him in my ill-fated draft team last year, and obviously he's on a good. He's starting the season very strong this year, and maybe that comes partly from having one objective, being the road, and not thinking about the Olympics on the track. But I mean, his race at Tirreno was one of the highlights of this past week. Obviously he won the opening time trial, although not so obviously because last year Ayuso beat him. But he won the time trial, and then he held the blue jersey, the leader's jersey, until the Queen stage. But then only finished 13th on the Queen stage, ahead of a whole bunch of people, including Richard Carapaz, who wants to win the Giro d'Italia. And then he finished second overall.
Apologies for interrupting you there, Kit. I'm looking at the top 20. I think he's the only rider under or over like 70 kilos in the entire top 20, and he is well over 70 kilos. Like it's the whole rest of the whole rest of the. I mean, he beat Jai Hindley, he beat Derek G, he beat Pidcock, he beat Landa, he beat Peo Bilbao. Like it is. We have this on the run sheet as well, that the big boys are climbing right now, because we saw kind of a similar thing over with Mess Peterson at Paris-Nice, where he wasn't quite as well. He didn't finish second overall, first and foremost, but was still kind of climbing with these
He
little
finished
whippets.
10th on the Queen stage.
Yeah, like showing that they've got just an incredible number of watts. I mean, Ghana for me was one of the rides of the entire week last week. And again, it feels like that team has been like there's something lifted. I think it'd be worth sort of us digging into this over the next couple of months and trying to figure out, like, what do the riders say? What do they think has changed? Or is it just sort of a coincidence that, Magnus Sheffield is sort of finally coming back from a number of very difficult things, not least of which was the fact that he was, if everyone will remember, the rider who crashed kind of alongside Gino Mader, who was sitting there watching another rider down the way, surrounded by emergency personnel, right, and had to come back from that experience. He was like teary-eyed in the post-race press conference, and I don't know if that was like directly Gino related, or he kept talking about his family. He kept talking about all the things that he had been sort of fighting through. He has won a major race before. He won Brabant's Appeal a couple of years ago, but this was still his first World Tour victory, and it has been a long time coming, I think.
Yeah, he did dedicate to Gino Mader, as Ian wrote up this morning. But it's always very poignant the first win is obviously a huge deal, but we understand that he didn't race for 3 months after that incident at the Tour de Suisse. He had himself been quite badly concussed, and obviously that can take much longer than 3 months to come back from. But there was also a lot of counselling that he went through to deal with the trauma, despite he wasn't completely lucid in the moment. But obviously that's an incredible. I don't know. You can't imagine what you go through experiencing that, and then the story after it, and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's a brilliant victory for him, and a wonderful step forward, and a step away almost from some horrible experiences. But what's also interesting about that stage was, besides the fact that Mads Pedersen was just kind of completely on a mission, having finished 10th on the Queen stage, and we should point out that the Queen stage was significantly shortened. It was Scandinavian in conditions, and but it meant that there were 2 major climbs taken out, which obviously the likes of Mads Pedersen would have kind of been expected to be dropped through. So it wasn't the absolute slugfest that it might have been as a typical Queen stage, but he was on the attack again on the Paris-Nice stage, and he almost single-handedly completely destroyed the peloton, and that's where Brandon McNulty was dropped. When Mads Pedersen was going off the front, so he really spiced up the stage. But and then the lead group, which ultimately became the yellow jersey group, Matteo Jorgensen was alone. I think Joao Almeida might have been alone as well. Florian Lipovitz was, but Ineos had 3 riders in there, so they are really racing strong as a team, as a unit. And Thurman Arisman was 3rd overall. Magnus Sheffield was in the hunt as well for GC positions, and then Tobias Foss was doing the kind of super domestique job. So it was a really kind of, this was Ineos Grenadiers on a very, very, very good day.
Mads Pedersen said that he enjoys racing in the cold and wet. That's how he got his World Championships win. If you hosted a Tour de France in like January or February, he would probably win it, I think. I think he's like what you term farm strong. Did
you not watch the Giro last year?
It'd be him versus Toms.
Yeah. Him versus Toms. He's the antithesis to the farm, or no, the tree people we had on Friday's episode. He's just like you'd want him in your party for the Oregon Trail. He would just like carry all of your belongings, across state lines. It'd be great. But
he would not get swept away by a river.
He would not get swept away. He would not succumb to any sort of illness.
Diphtheria.
Yeah, exactly. But we had 3 Ineos riders in the top 10 of GC, because Team Arensman actually got 3rd overall. So that's 2 podiums as well as 2 stage wins for Ineos. Obviously, with Paris-Nice, with their crashes, bad weather, we had the abandons of a lot of my draft team in Jonas Vingo, Mateusz Schelmoser, who had like a hard crash against some road furniture and miraculously didn't break any bones. The one
He nearly lost his modesty. Did you see the pictures?
Oh no,
Oh,
was
yeah.
it bad?
Oh yeah,
There was
very close.
Rip shorts.
If the cameraman had been the other side of him, you might have
Seen it all. After Victor Campanatz's photo, I took a weekend off seeing naked bike riders for once.
Can we talk about who we want on our Oregon Trail teams in After Dark?
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
Okay.
Continue.
So
just quickly back to the end of the Paris. If I'm allowed to put my conspiracy hat on for a second, not to take away from the one day single-handed rejuvenation of the American road racing scene. I was watching the closing kilometers of Paris-Nice. Matteo Jorgensen had got maybe within 12 seconds of Magnus Sheffield. If he really wanted to, I reckon he could have closed that gap. And
he said he
road-licked
couldn't.
him. Well,
he said he couldn't.
He said he couldn't.
Well, do we believe that?
Well, they did a few close-ups of Matteo Jorgensen, and he was doing a lot of, considering he'd been like breathing through his. I mean,
he
fair
was
enough, early in the week.
strong.
But he
looked great yesterday as well.
He was grimacing on the bike, and it was sort of when he was doing it was a bit too Tom of Erkler.
It's the second year in a row that he's finished second to somebody who was perhaps more not deserving of, but because remember last year he won the race overall on the final day, taking it off Brandon McNulty, poor chap. But he'd got, because he'd gone off the front with Remco, and Remco won the stage. Jorgensen just behind him won the yellow jersey, so he's familiar with riding into Nice and just kind of soaking it in a bit.
yeah, just being like, look, I've won the race overall. I don't need to, be first across the line. That's what makes him a pure domestique / Paris-Nice specialist, which is nice to see because we haven't had that in a while.
Yeah,
they are buddies. I mean, that's it. Like,
yeah.
they ride together all the time. They both live in Nice. Like, there was no way. I mean, whether he could have or not, I don't know. You could have that debate. He was never going to, unless
if
there
he'd
was
been under
coming
pressure behind,
yeah. If there's somebody coming up behind,
there was
then
no
maybe. But like, he is never in a million years going to go take that stage win away from Magnus Sheffield. Like, they had a nice sort of very American, like where you do the hand, like
yeah.
We're on YouTube now. They like
dapped each other
bro
up.
hands.
And then they're going to tap on the back.
yeah. They did some bro hands at the end. They did some good bro hands.
Did
anyway,
quick segue. Speaking of the bro hands and also Matteo Jorgensen, obviously we had Bradley Wiggins on the Lance Armstrong podcast where we were saying Matteo Jorgensen is going to win the Tour de France, but we can talk about that another time. I think that's such an easy low-hanging fruit of a discussion point for a cycling podcast. We would never lower ourselves. But quick question that off the back of that is, did in the 1990s, like when the Lance US Postal, did they used to do bro hands or not? Or did bro hands only come about in the last couple of decades? Do you know?
No, Lance has, yeah. I've personally seen Lance bro hands people before.
He did bro hands. Because it's also, it's not like that movement is not done by Europeans.
Do we need to describe bro hands?
So you're going up to someone. Let's do it, Caley.
You got two bros.
We'll do it. We'll do it. I'll pretend to walk up, okay? Oh,
okay.
Hey, Caley, what's up? Nice to see you. 3, 2, 1. Oh, we did the wrong hand. We're the wrong way around. Anyway, yeah.
Well, it would be the right hand if you were facing each other.
It's like shaking hands, but as if you're wearing mittens and your hand is more upright.
Honestly, I think the listeners might have understood the first time we tried to describe it.
Okay, great. Just in case, though, it's an audio medium.
For anybody currently listening, you just missed out by not watching this on YouTube. Is basically what we're saying, because you just got to watch Jonny and I try to bro hands from about 4,000 miles away.
Yeah.
It's called dapping someone up, right? And also, it's like people around the world do that action to like greet each other, but it's just different when Americans do it for some reason. I don't know why.
It's also infinitely less awkward than the very close alternative, which is accidentally shaking hands with someone but going in for a hug at the same time.
Yeah, that's the benefit of it. Is that it's such an obvious movement that no one can mistake it. Yeah,
this is why the American male loves it. Is because it keeps you at a distance. Like there's probably some built-in homophobia around the bro hands. I would think.
Probably. Maybe.
probably.
Originally,
little
I
bit
wouldn't
of
say
sort of-
between Jorgensen and
Not,
Sheffield.
no, 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 no,
Originally.
no, no, no. Yeah, not today. Like I have bro hands people before, but
Yeah.
in its origins, I think
Yes.
there's probably a bit of like, I don't really want to get that close to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
would
the
agree.
thing is, you can also bro hand straight into. Wow, what are we
Yeah,
doing?
yeah,
here?
yeah, yeah.
This is,
Straight
yeah.
into a hug. Anyway,
You can then
into a
half
good,
hug, yeah.
a good pat
Yeah,
on the
half
back.
hug.
This is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, America's back. Is really
Yep.
what we're saying, and bro hands are back. Congratulations to Matteo Jorgensen and Magnus Sheffield. I mean, it was a super impressive ride from both of them. It did kind of settle. We know how I think it was on Friday. We were like, who the hell is the leader at Visma Lease Bike? I think we asked that question, and it's actually, I think it was Cosmo on the How the Races Won pod over the weekend who mentioned that us asking that question is kind of the point, right? Like that's good for the team, and I think that will continue to be good for the team in races like this going forward, right? Like, it's like if
It
you've
won't
got
be
Jorgensen,
anymore though.
well, but if you've got like Jorgensen and Vingegaard at the Dauphiné or something, like we don't know
Yeah.
what they're gonna do in June,
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
it still behooves that team to have those sort of things. Or in that case, maybe you have, Sepp or somebody else, or Yates or something like that, right?
The leader is always going to be Vingegaard. If Jorgensen is the leader at the Dauphiné, it's to get him in credit.
Well, so here's the other thing that we were also talking about this on Friday a little bit. The fact that Jorgensen was kind of playing the teammate, and he's like, yeah, like where Jonas shows up, Jonas is the leader, right? But then in the post-race interview on Sunday, he's like, I've been thinking about this race for 4 months.
Yeah.
I've been so focused. This is
Really?
all I've been thinking about. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So like, so basically, he was sort of, I think, mentally prepared to acquiesce that leadership, but he did not want to. There was no question about that.
It was a race that obviously suits him. I wouldn't have been at all surprised if Vingegaard had finished second. In fact, if you'd asked me, I probably would have said I expected it to happen because that's what Visma have done before. I mean, was it the 2023 Tour de France when Roglic won the Dauphiné, and then Vingegaard obviously won the Tour? They do like to do this, kind of spreading it out and kind of I don't know, motivating each other, but also showing everybody else that they are just bloody strong. Although it kind of backfired a little bit this week. What they should have done really, considering Simon Yates kind of crashed and burned at Tirreno, is send Jorgensen back to Paris-Nice so that he can do his kind of, I don't know, swashbuckling practice for some one-day racing in terrible weather for the next few weeks, and then put Vingegaard in with Ayuso at Tirreno, and then they'd have won 2 races.
While
should've.
Ineos's riders are back, Ineos as a whole are not back. I will caveat that. We were nice about them, but I've had some news come across my desk, which I must share with you all. Are you ready for this?
Chief
Okay.
Ineos correspondent.
Thank you. We need to get that updated in my bio on the website.
Yeah.
This is from carscoops.com,
Ooh.
which is a great website. Well, great website name. I can't say I'm often on carscoops.com. But 7,000 of the built on purpose Ineos Grenadiers have had to be recalled. The actual cars, they've had to be recalled.
Yeah.
Because
Is that their whole stock, Johnny?
might be.
Probably pretty
I think
close.
it's the 2024 version of the car. So maybe it might be all of them. They're not any more, I haven't seen anything more specific than that. They've had to be recalled because of a problem with the latching or like the sticky door buttons, which means that you can just be driving an Ineos Grenadier along the road and then the doors just fly open. So that is obviously not great for anyone who's been in or seen a car before. It's all of the cars built between July 6th, 2023 and April 19th, 2024.
Wow.
That's
Oops.
a lot.
So that is not good because they have to be replaced because of improper assembly. So that's not great. We've also had Jim Ratcliffe trying to get out ahead of all the bad press he's had recently by announcing a £2 billion stadium for Manchester United, which looks like a massive circus tent.
That sounds
and
about right.
And doing a media rounds, which include an interview with a former Manchester United player who you might know called Gary Neville. If you don't know him, I'll try and introduce our American listeners to him, maybe over a series of weeks, just sort of incept Gary Neville into your minds. He's a fascinating character.
It's our intention to make Gary Neville perhaps part of the Spin Cycle Semitic universe. Yeah.
He's a footballer turned sort of like broadcaster and businessman. He's got a whole website where he writes about himself, and he's kind of like a football version of Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. If you want to know the ballpark, like probably both really into Huel, really like he talks about taking a long weekend as a mini retirement. Which is
that guy.
weird. He's that guy, but he managed to turn the screw on Jim Ratcliffe, and in like a bizarre 2-hour long interview, where he sort of suggested ideas for Jim Ratcliffe to pick up his business. Where it's like, well, instead of like cutting ordinary people's, lunch at Manchester United and saving yourself £40,000, why not just, get 2 players to go along to dinner, sell tickets, do a raffle, make the money there? And he's like, Jim Ratcliffe paused and was like, someone should have suggested that to me. So you've got all of this Ineos infrastructure that can't build cars, can't like suggest like very simple money making ideas. And Jim Ratcliffe said if he gets any like more and more abuse in general, and mostly from the United fans, then he might walk away.
Well,
So
that's
Ineos cycling could
then.
be back.
I believe that is what they're going for.
Yeah,
Right? That's the
seems...
fans. That's what they're going for at some point.
I think
is
so.
to make him walk away.
Does he have
So
any advisors, or is it just yes
Yeah,
men?
good
Dave
point.
Brailsford.
No,
There's a-
I know that he's got a whole
There's
massive
like
cabal of
well, it's a Politburo, isn't it?
Right.
Of people who are getting rich off
yes,
the
Jim,
chemicals.
Yes, Jim.
But this with that news and the news on the road for the Ineos Grenadiers, this has been a great week for the cycling team. I think it's been the best week that they've had in a
Yep.
year.
Yep.
And
no Pidcock.
Egan Bernal's
Doing
back
it out
next
with
week.
And Egan Bernal's back at Catalunya after recovering and is still going to go to the Giro.
He says so far. It's already been almost 5 weeks since he broke his collarbone. That time flies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they just glue it back up, don't they?
Genuinely, Ineos is still the third richest team in the whole sport. They still have purchased a number of very, very good riders in the last couple of years. Yes, they've lost some, but they still have a lot of really good riders. If they are fully shackles off, just go do whatever you can in every single bike race they enter, and they're no longer any sort of SkyTrain nonsense, they genuinely should be one of the most interesting and fun teams of the entire season. And I think that's what we have to look forward to. Because Filippo Ganna climbing with Richard Carapaz is just
past Richard Carapaz.
Or it's bad news for Richard Carapaz.
30-40 seconds ahead of Richard Carapaz.
Yeah, that is just chef's kiss, beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a particularly great quote. It's a kind of classic media-trained bicycle rider quote. But, he was asked about Ineos and how they've been performing so far these past few weeks, and he said they want to be the number one team in the world again. And they do seem to be riding like they want that. Somebody has had a word with them.
Who was saying this, sorry?
Ganna said this?
This was Ganna, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh.
He said, it is a long journey and it will take time, but we will try and improve and get higher and higher, which is a nice bit of lost in translation, possibly.
Here's the thing, is that if they can do stuff like this, they are one very good GC rider away from potentially having that title.
Yeah, what they've done this past week, they really have raced. They have not just sat back and let it happen.
Yeah.
They've really raced. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've probably chatted Paris-Nice and Tirreno and Ineos enough here. There is one more thing before we take a quick break, which is I just like this. Yates is finishing within 1 second of each other.
I was very pleased. Well, I was looking up. So this came about because I was looking at the top tens and noticing that everyone's very young. I'm 33 and I'm a good 5 years older than the oldest finisher in the top 10 of Paris-Nice.
Your chances of winning Paris-Nice are disappearing by the day, kid.
Very fast. Yeah, I'd have a better chance at Tirreno, where Mikel Landa was in the top 10. Not Mikel. Yeah, Mikel Landa. But anyway, but also at Tirreno, besides our friend Mr. Mikel Landa, thank you for doing one for the old dudes. But we have the Yates twins, who I was really hoping we might get to see a showdown between this spring, either at this race or then at the Giro. And that didn't really happen. Although I did then discover that they were separated by just 1 second in 14th and 16th place overall.
Wow. Who
Which
won?
is just very fun.
Simon won with
Get
his
in.
Melissa bike. Would you like to know how many points he got, Johnny?
He's not on my team. I've just,
Oh, okay,
I've
I just
decided
wondered.
I'm just decided that I'm basing a lot of hope this season on Visma turning tables on UAE, but through the catalyst of the Yates brothers or the
I
Yates
really
twins.
would like to see the Yates brothers race. I mean, even if it's just in one stage, I just want to see them race and do more than just finish in the kind of top 16.
They were definitely not doing much over the last week. You know who
No.
was, though?
Who was? Oh, yeah, your
Is
friend.
my friend, Jonny
Who's your
Milano.
friend?
Well,
Oh,
both your
yeah.
friends then. I was thinking, is that Del Toro? But anyway.
No, Jonathan Milan came
Yeah.
back with a stage win at the end of the week. I got a bunch of direct messages on Instagram telling me to tell our Johnny that he was wrong.
This is hilarious. Can
About
we
Jonathan Milan.
can we break the fourth wall here and tell them what really happened?
What really happened?
Yeah.
that you put Johnny Milan is cooked in last week's spin cycle run sheet,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I
told
didn't do
Johnny to tell you.
Look,
Stop beating on Johnny, folks. And I mean the
Okay.
long one, not the Milan one.
I've made my bed and I'll lie in it. Look, let's admit Paris-Nice, Tirreno-Adriatico, for me they didn't live up to expectation necessarily. I think part of that was the weather, which no one can control unless you ask like certain sections of Reddit. And at Tirreno especially, it was a bit of a snooze fest. So if you're winning, let's go down the list of this final stage that Johnny Milano won. Beat Sam Bennett, fantastic sprinter, love Sam Bennett. Olav Koy, also a great sprinter, but maybe didn't come in as an Italian would to Tirreno, trying to win as like Filippo Ganna as well. The Italians still take their own bike races very seriously. Then you got like Jake Stewart, Paul Penwot from Groupama at FDJ. Bunch of other guys who wouldn't necessarily feature in a World Tour sprint.
There was a
I'd
big
say.
crash, but still, the only people who caught out in the
Olav
crash were Paul
Koy
Magnier.
is a good sprinter.
Yeah, but he
Yeah.
didn't have a good week either. The only sprint that he won was when Jonathan Milan wasn't there.
Brian Cocard erasure going on over here.
Oh,
Huge
bless
type.
him. I love Brian Cocard. I've got a lot of time for him, but he's like Guillaume Martin. He's the sprinter version of Guillaume Martin. Guillaume Martin was the oldest finisher the oldest GC rider. Wait, no, the first over 30-year-old at the Paris-Nice. There's a bit of a fact for you. Anyway, finished in like 13th. Yeah, the Grain Jersey classification. Yeah.
I think this season we're going to see the true like shifting of the old sprinting guard phasing out, because like so Dylan Groenewegen struggling to get going. Fabio
Well, he did crash a
Jakobsen
couple of times.
Yeah, crashed a couple of times.
I think Fabio Jakobsen might be on his way out.
Fabio
of pro
Jakobsen
cycling.
could be done. Sam Bennett's had a pretty good resurgence. But like Caleb Ewan needs to get going at Ineos. Maybe that will happen. But I think this could be the year where we don't see like a guy who won a Tour de France sprint stage 5 years ago win one.
Yeah. I think the
Really
top
changing
sprinters
the
are going to be Johnny Milan, Tim Merlier, who won the two major sprint stages at Paris-Nice, and then Jasper Philipsen when he gets back into his sprint legs, which he says he doesn't have at the moment, which is bull. And then good old Binny, who will peak for the Tour, and he'll have dad legs because he's having a second baby.
I promised
So-
like 5 minutes ago that we were done, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
well,
cut us off there.
you
Turns
did-
out we actually enjoyed things about Paris-Nice and Tirreno.
There were some good.
Despite me saying
I mean,
otherwise.
we're all over 30, so we've got to find something to talk about in the
That's
over
true.
30s kind of
That's true.
area of cycling, so we don't
But
feel
we are going to
sad.
take a quick break. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Transfer Watch. Welcome back, everybody. So, the Transfer Watch, obviously, it's March. We're a long way from anything actually happening transfer-wise. That said, we have some theories, right? We have some Ayuso-based theories. We have some Mess Peterson-based theories. What are our theories?
I'll give my Mads Pedersen one first. I've been banging on about this for a few weeks now about how maybe he'll be off from Little Trek. I mean, he'll get announced in the next couple of weeks that he's renewed at Little Trek, and I'll look like an idiot. But that's fine. I'm happy.
After
I'm
he's
happy
won
to
a couple
play-
of stages at the Giro and he's in the Ciclamina jersey, they'll say,
Yeah.
"Oh, look."
Yeah, happy to play that game. But with my theory that Johnny Milano is the guy for Little Trek for the future, Mads Pedersen will go and maybe do an Uno X or find somewhere else to get the big fat contract he deserves. We did see another potential suitor coming out of the woodwork at the weekend. At least if I'm putting my conspiracy theory.
No, I came to the same conclusion,
Ooh.
Johnny.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that makes me feel a lot better about it, Kit, because Mads Pedersen was given an awful lot of help to Joao Almeida.
Great sort of help though. The quotes were fantastic.
Oh God, would you have them there?
Well, no, I don't. But the gist was, I hope I scared him a little bit and gave him some motivation to climb, because you don't want to see a sprinter, and the green jersey no less, riding next to you as a climber.
That's good.
Yeah,
They
it's
are.
good.
They're
But
both
they are pals. Yeah.
They're pals. They're both they're under the same management company. But being pals and being under the same management company, and then kind of giving a helping hand in a bike race, could Mads Pedersen to UAE? Do the rich just get richer?
It makes sense.
It makes.
I can
maybe
see it
makes
happening.
sense.
Yeah, I
I
can
don't
see it
need to
happening.
make it
Well-
make sense because it could happen.
Yeah. They've got Jonathan Narvaez and Niels Pollitt and Tim Wellens, but none of them are really kind of a nailed on top 3, top 5 classics rider. I still think X is more likely, because they'll want to have him and to kind of try and to solidify a World Tour spot. But yeah, it did occur to me the weekend, and being friends doesn't actually mean anything, but it did put the idea in my brain as well.
What a quote! Being friends doesn't mean anything. Get that
No,
on
I
a
mean in the
t-shirt.
peloton.
Yeah.
I can't see it, and the reason I can't see it is I think Mads Pedersen likes the Tour de France too much.
Ooh, that's a very, very good point.
True.
Like he's done well there. He's won stages. Like he's it's usually a focus of his year, and so I don't think.
But
he's
Caley, he
going
can
to a
climb
team-
too.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gonna go full.
No,
Florian
I'm kidding.
Vermeersch
I know.
mode.
I get it. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Florian
like-
Vermeersch. Anyway,
I mean, genuinely, the way to think about him at the tour would be he'd be in a Wout van Aert role, right? Like he would
Yeah.
just be.
yes,
he would
except
be
that Tadej Pogacar can win Wout van Aert stages, so why would Pedersen
Yeah.
be there? Yeah,
Well, just like another helping hand, right? Like I do think that it could make sense, but I also think that, I think that Pedersen wants free reign, basically every single available opportunity
yes.
He
during
wants a
the Tour de
team.
France, and I don't think that.
Uno
he
X?
wants a team built around him.
Ineos.
Uno X makes a lot more sense. Ineos would make some sense, but also Trek is the 4th richest team in the sport right now, and I think that they will be trying to lock him down. I think that their issue is Jonathan Milan, and the fact that those two are now, like, you look at Milan San Remo coming up this weekend, you're like, okay, well, which of those two?
Yeah,
Like they
It's
win in
potentially a
similar
problem.
scenarios,
Yeah.
right? They win in very similar scenarios, and so that is potentially an issue.
yeah.
does
Mind you, they
one
have
of
the
them-
same at Alps Interkönig, so we'll just see how that kind of dynamic works.
Yeah, but I would still say that like
But Mads Pedersen's more likely to win a sprint than Mathieu van der Poel, is what you're saying. Yeah.
yes, and so I think that it is a potential problem, but like I said, they've got the cash to figure it out. The other one we were watching is Ayuso, because there were rumors that Ayuso wanted to get out.
Yeah,
UAE
all those
last year.
brilliant, really sad photos of him sitting around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
Picnic
which
tables.
if you are an up and coming GC rider,
he's still only 21.
yeah, you
Wait, is he
don't want to
22?
be on that team. You just don't want to be on that team. Now, granted, okay, get your bag, Ayuso. Like he's getting paid very, very, very well, but like generally the way that teams like that are built is you've got your Pogacar at the top of it, and then you end up hiring like think back to Ineos and Sky. You end up hiring a bunch of like Wout Poels, right? Like riders that can get you very, very close, but are not realistically going to be trying to win much of anything like at that sort of like Tour de France level. Whereas UAE is now so chock full of winners that they are going to run out of races to aim them at.
Yeah, and Isaac Del Toro is a newcomer who has been, Strada Bianchi and as Ayuso's right-hand man at Tirreno-Adriatico, he is showing himself as being like the top super domestique at UAE. Obviously, it's still only March, and he might be peaking earlier than the rest of them. But this guy is 21. They're almost exactly a year apart. If Del Toro has a good year and Ayuso doesn't, then goodbye Ayuso. You are no longer relevant at UAE.
Well, so this is the reason why I think so he's on a long contract. I think he's on a contract till 28. But contracts can be figured out, right? I think if you game it out a little bit, Ayuso has a good year. He wants to leave because he wants opportunity. Ayuso has a bad year. He wants to leave because he just got surpassed by Del Toro and he wants any sort of opportunity whatsoever, right? And so I think either way, if I'm Ayuso's agent, I'm looking at options.
I'm talking to Movistar.
Who is it? We need to figure out actually who Ayuso's agent is. I would presume it's the Quadro maybe, rather than the Pogacar's agent, because that would make it less likely.
So Movistar. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think Movistar.
Yeah.
I mean, Movistar have got Enric Mas, and he's fine. He's 32, getting
He's
old.
literally the definition of fine. Yeah.
He is, yeah. And otherwise, if you look at their roster, I mean, good old Nairo Quintana is still there, obviously. They've got Pablo Castillo, revelation of the Vuelta, and Eno Rubio, who is a good climber, but he's not a GC guy. He cannot time trial. He's never going to contest those Grand Tours, whereas Ayuso clearly can time trial and can contest Grand Tours. So he needs the Pidcock treatment. He needs to have something built around him. He's got a dog-like Pidcock. They're the same guy, clearly. Yeah, I think he needs a fresh start, I think.
The other key thing I think is that it's not going to be a similar situation to where Soudal Quick-Step can keep Remco Evenepoel around because they want to trade off the length of that contract. Whereas UAE, if it's upsetting the ecosystem, distracting Tadej Pogacar or just the team in general, then they can cut loose because they've got unlimited funds and it doesn't really matter. So it makes it a lot more simple.
Yeah, we don't talk about what's the football term? Downing tools, right? Where a player will sort of
lost the dressing
play,
room. Lost the dressing room is when it happens on a big scale. Yeah.
Yeah, but so it's they're still in the team, but they don't really want to be there, and so they kind of refuse to play well. Basically, we don't really see that in cycling all that much, or maybe it's just harder.
No, we used to with the Lanterne Rouge, but that was kind of jokey.
Yeah.
It's not really the same thing at all. But it's the only thing that came into my brain.
I could see that happening. Is basically what I'm saying. I mean, that's kind of what we heard rumor of happening last summer. So, all right, that's enough Ayuso talk. Kit, you have 35 seconds to tell me about Matthew Richardson.
Oh wow, great. Okay, awesome. I don't have the times here. Well, okay. I don't need to have the times exactly. But yeah, so Matthew Richardson, now a Brit, obviously, which is great news for Britain. Yeah,
we're talking about track racing, by the way.
We're talking about track racing. Yeah, that's why I'm so excited. Can't you tell?
Yes.
So this weekend was the only Nations Cup of the year, which is it's a very strange post-Olympics year. Matthew Richardson went there for the first time in GB colours. It's not his first time representing GB because he raced the Euros, but it is his first UCI event. Unfortunately, Harry Leverison was not there, but so there wasn't a kind of match-up that we were hoping for, and so there wasn't anything particularly newsworthy in the fact that Richardson basically swept all the medals that he hoped to aim for. But what is interesting is that in the flying 200-metre qualifying round for the individual sprint, he nudged the world record ever so slightly closer to the 9-second mark, taking it from Harry Leverison, who set it in the qualifiers at last year's Olympics, which was the first time the record had been set since 2009 at something close to sea level. But yeah, so that's at least an interesting marker for Richardson. And it's more to do with the fact it's not kind of can he beat Leverison necessarily, but it's working at GB for him, which is good news for Richardson and obviously for GB.
And good news for GB, our proud country.
Yes.
Let's not get into what.
Yes, I just had a terrifying moment where I was going reeling through that Discord discussion from last week when everyone was kind of debating how GB qualifies in the UK and England, Wales, whatever.
Oh yeah, that confused me by the end of it.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
Anywho.
Yeah, I don't know how you expect me to understand what on earth you guys are going on about.
Don't go back into it.
Thank you for. We're not.
Did I do okay? How quick was that?
I think you did. I think you did great. I think you were slightly over the 35-second mark, but I think that
35 seconds. 35 seconds on Jupiter or something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jonny, did you ever listen? We're from basically the same background. 4 kids, family holidays, farmyard doors behind us. The family home. Did you listen to Just a Minute as a kid in the car with your parents? Yep, there you go.
That was,
so that's what I felt. It was a flashback to playing Just a Minute on long car journeys.
Just a Minute would be fun.
It would be interesting. It would be terrifying. Do you know what Just a Minute is, Caley?
No.
You have to. So it's a game show where I'll try and be quick with this as well. It's a game show where a panel of 4 comedians and kind of experts intelligent people from British comedy and acting.
For us, then?
Well, it's tricky, but they have to. They're given a subject which might be banana splits, it might be European politics. It could be anything, and they have to speak for 30 seconds or a minute without deviation, hesitation, repetition.
Yeah,
is that all? So it's
Yeah.
repeating words, saying or
And it has to
stopping,
be relevant.
or
Yeah.
getting away from the point. And it's very, very interesting.
We'll try it. We'll
It's a
try it
really
out.
thrilling game to listen to. Yeah, it'd be a fun. I think Ian might be quite good at it, partly because he's got a nice measured way of speaking already. I get just very fast and stressed, whereas Ian has already got a nice kind of measured, thoughtful.
You got to fill a minute. You just talk real slow, right?
Well,
You just talk
so he's
really
got an
slowly
advantage
about
because he's
whatever you're supposed to
already.
be talking about.
He
also
already
gotta be
seems like he's an
entertaining,
expert in
Caley.
everything. You do have to be entertaining.
We've got
anyway.
a couple more fun things, but should we take a quick break?
Let's take a
Sorry,
break.
I took
When we
us
come
down
back,
a weird rabbit hole.
Patrick Lefevere's band list. No, okay, you did great. The 3 to 5 people that care about track racing will be stoked. All right, we'll be right back. Patrick Lefevere's band list. That's a good headline.
Sounds like a really
is.
bad band name.
Yes. Yeah. His I wonder, like, we can't go down any more rabbit holes thinking of what Patrick Lefevere's favourite bands would be. But Patrick Lefevere had a list of band activities apparently when he was the boss of Soudal Quickstep. He appeared on the Speed on Wheels podcast, which is a podcast by Rob Van Gameren and Nicky Terpstra. So if you're looking for the answer to the question, does everyone you've ever heard of have a podcast? The answer is yes.
Yes.
So he had Patrick Lefevere had a list of activities that riders were banned from doing. This isn't that uncommon. A lot of teams like ban riders from skiing in the winter when they're off the bike. So that was on Patrick Lefevere's ban list. The other one was motorcycle rides. Apparently, Patrick Lefevere does not like motorcycles at all.
He said in common with my wife, who has banned me from motorcycling.
Interesting. I'm thinking of a graphic here where it's Patrick Lefevere, Caley's wife, and the middle of the Venn diagram doesn't like motorcycling. But yes, he says it's dangerous. Was once very scared that Wilfred Peters called him up and said he'd broken his elbow, and he's like, "Oh, how did you do that motorcycling?" He's like, "No, I was just mountain biking through a forest and fell over." And so apparently that used to keep him up at night.
Listen, we love our friends at Wheeler Flitz, right? Big Wheeler Flitz fans. This is off-season stuff.
Sorry,
what are we doing
you
over
didn't
here?
see the best. Did you see what they did this
Wait.
weekend?
Who? Oh no, wait. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry, I dragged that story out a bit too long. I maybe made it a little bit boring. I buried the lead here. The one thing that Patrick Lefevere doesn't mind his riders doing is anything that involves like jumping out of an airplane. Because in his mind, if this is the quote from him. As far as I'm concerned, if the parachute doesn't open, it's done.
What? So they're
it's not-
either dead or they're fine.
So then I guess
so
then he
basically what
collects
he's-
the insurance money,
Oh my God.
or they're fine. He doesn't have to like pay their wages while they're injured. I guess.
Oh, he
That's
would
what
have to pay. Would he?
he's
Oh,
concerned
wow.
about paying wages while a rider's injured. Clearly, yeah. Like that's the so you were allowed to do anything that might kill you, but you just can't do anything that might hurt you.
Oh wow.
Yeah. His fixation on skiing presumably came to top of his mind because there's this other quote. He's like, dangerous sports like skiing. This week I was watching TV again. 15 people had to fly back because they had broken something. I like the idea of like watching TV as like knowing the number of times you participate in that activity. It's like, oh, I was watching the TV again, not like the TV's just on. And we've seen from his Instagram, the TV is always on in his house, and he has his feet up on his coffee table with no socks on. So it's not a revelation. Anyway, I'll get. Do you want my other bit of Wheeler Flitz news from the weekend,
Give us
which
it,
was
yeah.
Yes.
even better?
Oh,
This was
this was
great.
the highlight of my morning. Great fun.
This was Saturday, right, Kit?
No, it was yesterday
Sunday.
when they were in Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So XDS Astana woke. Oh yeah, sorry, of course it was in Nice. XDS Astana woke up and decided that they were going to be funny on Sunday, and Davide Ballerini wasn't racing Paris-Nice, but presumably lives in the local area. He came along to hang out with the Astana boys. Talk some minerals. Just get some, pick up some good vibes, put some down. He was on the team bus. The social media person for Astana takes a photo and decides to make a little bit of a joke, being like, thanks to a great new innovation from the race organisers ASO, we are subbing in Davide Ballerini for Case Bowl on this final stage. It was said quite flat, written fairly, officially. But Wheeler Flitz picked this up and ran with it and was like, "Oh my God, there is this new rule. We've contacted everyone to figure out what's going on, and then had to.
Their
later-
reaction was one of the funniest bits, but they were the peak of the mountain, which was pretty substantial, in which so many people were reacting as if it was true. It was really quite sensational.
Did any of the sort of notorious English language translate Wheelerflitz sites pick it up and then translate it?
What you mean, like Cycling Up to Date?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it anywhere else.
I didn't
No.
see any.
Well, I will. Well, let's beating on Wheelerflitz, but what I will say is big respect. They did delete it from Twitter, but huge respect for leaving it on the site and just adding a rectification. I thought that was classy. It's like, yeah, sorry guys.
It was like,
we
turns
failed.
out this was a joke
Yeah.
and it's not true, which is great. I mean, look, we can't throw stones in glass houses because I keep on spelling words like scene and peak wrong in the newsletter.
Well, I don't catch them in the edit.
Yeah, it's all part of the fun. But yeah, I like the fact that Astana decided to be funny for one day and it caught out one of my
They
favorite.
did that
cycling
song
websites.
a year or two ago.
Yeah.
The rap, yeah.
What did they do? The
Yes,
rap.
Goodness me.
So they've tried
Yeah.
a couple times to do interesting.
Well, they then had to really lean into, they were like, no, good luck to our boys starting today. And then they just listed exactly who was starting today. No, obviously no ballerina. And then a picture of ballerina saying, maybe better go training instead, Davide?
I like the idea of Astana rather than being bike racing team being just performance art.
Yes.
Like some rich person's plaything where no one really pays attention to it, but it just exists
Yeah.
and you can't really criticize art, so it's fine. But yeah, just a bit of fun. Caley, you have a map to talk to us about.
I have a map to talk to you about. That is correct. So, member Tour de Wines on Discord, who they do like custom wine collections and things. It's very, very cool. So on Discord over the weekend, Tour de Wines says, does anyone know if there's a good user-generated map of all the cycling cafes in the U.S.? For a bit of context, there's a new cycling cafe in North Carolina where Tour de Wines is from. And I said, I can't think of one. And the rest of the members said, I can't think of one either. And so we went to Jace. And Jace is like, we can make this in about 5 seconds on Google. And so we did. So now we have started the official Escape Collective Cycling Cafe map on the internet. If you are a member, you can grab the link in... on Discord. Maybe we should we put it in the members only edition of Spin Cycle this week, Johnny?
Yes, good idea.
Let's do it. We'll drop the link in there. So make sure that you are 1, a member, and 2, getting the Spin Cycle newsletter on Monday and Friday. We'll drop the link in there and mention it in there. It's already filling out with a whole bunch of cafes. I added the ones from Durango. I added a bunch in Boulder. We've got cafes all over the world popping up. A whole bunch in Australia, a whole bunch in Europe. Anyway, just a super cool kind of member-generated hive mind thing. And I'm absolutely going to use this whenever I'm on the road and I'm looking for a cool cycling cafe. We'll probably turn this into a story on the site at some point once it kind of fills all the way out. Give it a couple weeks to do that. But if you're out there and you're a member, like I said, we'll drop the link in the Spin Cycle newsletter. It's already in Discord. It's in the... I think it's in the General Cycling channel. Yes, General Cycling channel. Go click on it. Add yours. Add your cycling cafes. I'm defining cycling cafe as either.
I was going to ask this, yeah.
Yeah, so like, it's not just any good coffee shop in your town,
Yeah.
right? Then we'd have too much. It wouldn't be useful anymore. What we want is either like a cafe curated by cyclists, right? So like a Rafa Clubhouse, stuff like that, Meteor in Austin. Or I'm going to extend the definition out to like any cafe. Yeah, a cafe that is on a popular route or is hosts the start of group rides or something like that. Basically, if there's a greater than 50% chance that any time you go to this place, you're going to see another cyclist there, I think that would basically qualify
Good
for
it.
a cycling cafe. So yeah,
Cycling
go
themed
and
or intensely cycling friendly.
yes, and so like anywhere where there's no bike parking, like that's an immediate no-go, right? Stuff like that, leave those ones out because genuinely we're trying to make this a a useful tool for anybody who's traveling somewhere and is like, where should I go? Grab a coffee, meet with some friends, maybe get to lay the land from some other local cyclists. Like that would be the sort of thing that would be helpful. So go check out the map. At the moment, again, we're just going to open this link up to members. I mean, technically, a member could share it with a non-member. We would have no way of knowing.
That's
but
not very membery, though.
That's not very membery.
No.
That's not very membery. And then, we'll put it up as a story at some point. Thank you to Tour de Wines for bringing this up and for requesting it. And thanks to all the members who have already dropped stuff in there. I'm just opening it up again. There's like 100 in Belgium and the Netherlands already.
Brilliant.
Nice.
Amazing. Is
and
it
a whole
all
bunch
Köln?
in there's
Good on you,
a
mate.
couple in London. There's a couple outside, some in the Surrey Hills.
I used to work in one. Doesn't exist anymore, sadly.
Your
sad.
pronunciation of Surrey is just gave
Surrey.
me so much joy.
Surrey.
Surrey.
Nope.
Surrey.
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 Surrey. Yeah, that's it.
Surrey.
Sorry.
Talking about Surrey gives me PTSD. Can we let's move into after dark? We haven't got
We
long.
got one in Helsinki. All right.
Brilliant.
Anyway, go check it out. And thanks again to Tour de Wines for the suggestion. Now, we are going to head into After Dark. Of course, that is for members only. Make sure you sign up. Head to escapecollective.com/join. It's very important that you do so. If you listen to this podcast regularly, you really should. We would really appreciate it. I did the math. 27 cents a day to keep Ian
Wow.
Treloar in fancy candles. That's what you need to be doing.
Does he have
And
fancy
while-
candles?
Oh, yeah, loves them. And while Ian gets his fancy candles, you get extra podcast twice a week, which is great. You also get Performance Process. You also get behind the paywall on the website. You also get all sorts of other stuff. Head over
You
to
get Friday
Escape
Spin Cycle newsletter.
You get Friday Spin Cycle newsletter, which we just put behind a paywall because
I've got to justify my existence.
All right. We're heading After Dark. Thanks for joining us. If you are in the free feed, we'll see you Monday. No, it is Monday. We'll see you Friday. Jesus Christ. If you remember, stick around.